I am Callum from Tyne Valley Motorhomes, and this is the handover of an Auto Trail Tracker LV. So as we start the walk around on the driver's side of the vehicle first, the first point you get to is your mains connection point. So to hook the vehicle up, get your hooker blade, lift the wheel flap, lift the flap on the hooker blade like so, hook the vehicle first and then connect it to the site or to home if you're doing a bit of home charging. Just so that you're never walking around with a live lead. And when you unhook, do it in reverse order, always unhook the sight, then the van last. Underneath here, you do have a grey tap. This is your grey wastewater, so this is anything that you've collected from the 3 sink plugs, obviously shower, hand basin and kitchen sink. Goes into a separate holding tank, and on the way out of your site, you can open the valve on the side and allow the water out. Make sure that this is fully drained off before you start travelling, because you don't want to be driving around with added weight, because it's not necessary. And in the winter, make sure that this is fully drained off so that the water doesn't freeze on board the waste tank. Using the habitation key, which is this little round key here, you can open all the external locks. In here you've got some storage behind the kitchen. Shower hose, trigger gun, one end fitting similar, exactly the same as a hose pipe, which goes into here, and it is a cold water fed external shower, but making sure you've got the pump on the control panel inside to get a pressurised flow. To drain off your fresh water, so this is anything that you've put in that you might think's contaminated, you're not using the van for a couple of weeks, or you're parking it up for the winter and you want to drain it all off, you'd simply open this tap and drain off all your fresh water here and allow that to eliminate out the tank via this point. Valve for your Truma boiler, so just make sure that's always obstruction free. In here you've got storage, but you've also got the boiler drain down toggle. So the toggle's just here and it's yellow, and what you need to do when you winterise it, you need to stand that up. That'll allow the water to drain out of the boiler, and you can see it coming out. When you're ready to reuse it, just knock it back down. But this is more for in the winter, so that the water doesn't freeze in the boiler, because it holds that 10 litres of water. You drain the fresh and the waste off, you leave all the taps open within the van to stop them from holding any water in the taps or the pipes itself. And then when you come to reuse it, this down, freshen the waste closed, fill the van with water. Inside the van, shut the taps, turn the control panel on, turn your pump on, and cold side of the tap first, you'll get a pressurised flow. Start to go to the hot, you'll get the coughing and spluttering as it's transferring the water from the main tank underneath the chassis into the boiler until you get a pressurised flow of water. But make sure you drain your boiler down by just lifting that up and leaving it like that when you're not using it, when we're experiencing freezing temperatures in the winter. So anywhere from back end of October to back end of March, start of April, you need to leave this drain down. High level brake light, reversing camera, move the centre of the wheel carrier with the habitation key, big nut, and you can lift this off and you've got a full size spare wheel under there. Storage in the garage, and you've also got a 3-pin plug on the awning side should you need to plug anything in. External barbecue point, so if you're planning on doing a bit of outdoor cooking on a Kadak, instead of carrying a separate bottle for the Kadak, you can use the bottle on board the vehicle. So what you need to do is, there's a fitting which is called a quick release connection, which is just here. This one has never been used by the looks of it. Cut that off, that goes into the bottom there. Some orange gas hose and a Jubilee clip to connect it to here, and a Jubilee clip to connect it onto the barbecue. Turn the tap on and you'll be able to feed the gas from the van. When you're ready to take it off, push the collar up and you'll be able to pull the fitting out. Fresh water intake, so carry a hose pipe and some hose pipe fittings, as it's mainly just a brass tap on site. Hose in between the 2 lugs, pop it in there, wait until it overflows or until you're happy there's enough water on board. Failing that, there is a point for a pump. So that's a power point for a wheel submersible pump where you can drop it in the water and suck the water into the van. But you do need to have the tank fill on in the control panel, which I'll show you inside the vehicle, to give a live to this point. cassette toilet. So the cassette toilet will only come out if the blade's closed. But I'll show you more about how to operate the blade once inside the vehicle. So lift up, slide out, carry the waste disposal point, which is normally beside your toilet block. Or you can wheel it, should it be too heavy and full. Take the grey cap off, put the grey cap to one side, press the orange button and tip the contents out of the cassette. Just allows a bit of air in when it's pouring, press that and that will give it a consistent flow. Once you've done that, there's normally a tap there. Pop some water in and give it a rinse before going in with a cap full of chemical, which is 120ml of either blue or green. Ask your site which they prefer you to use, because now it's normally the green, but you can measure it, pop it in there and pop it into the vehicle. This has been an extra that's been fitted to the vehicle because it doesn't come fitted with this from Motor Trail, but this is an external 230-volt socket. So if you connect it to mains, you've got another power source here where you can plug a mains item in the morning. Finally, the LPG. This is where you keep your gas bottles on board the vehicle. So I've got my test bottle on here at the moment. So you'll have to get your own bottle. But it runs off propane, not butane. It's set up for propane because propane has a lot of a higher freezing point, whereas butane will freeze at -5. Always make sure the bottle's tied in, so when you put it on, tie the bottle in if it's staying on, because it's safer for when you travel that the gas canister's not going to roll around and cause any damage. So tie that in. To connect this pipe to the top of the cylinder, which is known as the pigtail, it's right left to tighten, right to loosen, so the opposite ways with it being gas, and you just hand tighten it, and then finally you'll need a gas spanner or an adjustable wrench just to nip it up. Once it's nipped up, you can then turn the bottle on, and on this one you've got a little black stopper just where my finger is here, and you need to push that in for 3 to 5 seconds once you've turned the bottle on to allow the gas through the crash valve. If you're still getting a problem with gas, try this crash valve here. So there's a green button, 10-second reset on there, and there's a valve in there just to stop the gas from entering the vehicle. When filling with diesel, using the main Fiat Ducato key, it's at the passenger door and it's a lockable diesel cap. Tyre pressures can be found here, so 5.5 bar, which is 79.5 psi front and back. Engine batteries underneath the floor, so if you ever need to replenish that, you want to put a charger on, anything like that, take the battery out, it's underneath there. And your toolkit is underneath the seat, so that's got a jack and a bracelet, torn iron, everything you need to change that spare wheel. Bonnet release. So open the door and you'll get the bonnet release. And then in here you do have your various fluids. All your fluids at this side, so you've got your screen wash. Lift these 3 tabs off and this part of the scuttle will come off and you'll be able to fill your power steering fluid, your coolant, and then you've got your brake fluid, your oil filler and dipstick. And then should you ever need to jump start the vehicle, you'd earth off here with the battery being underneath the carb floor. So that's your earth for your black clip. And where this cover is, if you just put, this is your air filter, pop your key here or something flat, screwdriver, lift this up. This lifts up and this is your positive for giving or receiving a jump start from the vehicle or to another vehicle. So once on board the vehicle, if you're hooked up, you'll get this little electricity symbol there. If you're not, you'll just get 12 volt off your leisure batteries. But what you need to do is you need to turn the 12 volt system on. So you need to press the big on button, turn the system on. Then if you want lights, you can turn your lights on. That's your main master switch for your lights across the road from it. And then they all are individually switched around the van. So go around and switch the ones on that you want. Underneath the master switch, you've got your pump. So you can turn your pump on, making sure that you've got sufficient water on board. To check your water levels, it's the one underneath. And you can see there that you've got 50% of fresh water on board and 0% waste.
So the tanks on these are 100 litres of fresh and 70 waste. So you've got 50 litres of fresh water sitting in that tank at the moment. When it's 100% full, you've got 100 litres. Press the home button in the middle and you can go back to the control panel. Underneath you've got your battery levels. So if you press this one, you can view your battery levels. So you can see that your leisure battery is at 12.5 volts. Your vehicle battery is at 12.5 volts. Take the hook out to get a true reflection of the leisure battery, because when on hook up that can give a false reading. Your active battery in the middle there that says leisure, you always want it to say leisure because that's the active battery that runs the motorhome. You never want that to say vehicle unless you're in an emergency and you just need 12 volt quickly for a little period of time. You can swap it to the vehicle battery should you wish, but I always say just leave the vehicle battery for starting the engine because you wouldn't want to flatten the vehicle battery. You can see that that's drawing 0.8 amps because that's what we've got on. That's physically coming off the battery. Mains hookup is at 1.6 amp and the solar is at 0. Solar will always go to sleep when mains connection is connected to the vehicle because it can't compete with 230 volt. Underneath the master switch for your lights, you've got your on and light, and you do have a dimmer light, so you can press and hold and dim the lights underneath the lockers down. Pressing the settings, you've got your power settings. So the active battery always wants to be battery L, which is leisure, which is the battery that's an auxiliary battery designed to power the motorhome or caravan or vice versa. The solar battery you can have selected to the battery that you want. So you can either have it selected to the leisure or the vehicle. So if you are standing the vehicle up for a few weeks, you might want to put it onto the vehicle, but when you're using it while camping, you might want to put it onto the leisure because it will charge the leisure battery when you're using it. But it's only as good as the round thing in the sky. So in the summer, great. In the winter, not so good unless we have a sunny day. Or what you can do is you can put this one on smart. I wouldn't advise putting the active battery on smart because what smart does, it analyzes both batteries, and whatever battery's lower, it will put onto the other battery. So if the leisure battery goes lower than the vehicle battery, it'll know that there's some more reserve charge in the vehicle battery and it'll switch it over. I wouldn't advise doing that on the active, but you might want to do that on the solar because it'll monitor both batteries, and if that's parked up in the storage yard or on the drive, it'll just do it by itself. You don't have to do it for it. Tank fill, there's a little socket next to your hose pipe connection on the side of the van, and you can buy a pump. And if you can't get a hose to the vehicle, you can bring water to the van in an aqua roll in a bucket. Put the pump in, but the pump won't be live until you turn the tank fill on because there's no 12 volt at that point until you turn this on. Tank heaters, you can turn the tank heaters on if you're going to be using it in the winter and it's going to freeze. Pop them on overnight and it'll just stop the water from freezing in the tanks by keeping it above freezing. Light settings, screen settings, and then the date and time for when the clocks go back and forth. You can change the time on the display panel. You can also select your Aldi settings here, but I'm not going to confuse you on selecting the Aldi settings from here. I'm going to show you the Aldi control panel separately. So to do the Aldi, all you need to do is press on. This is your heating and hot water. And the Aldi system is more like a central heating system. So at the minute it's telling you that it's detected 28.5 degrees inside the van, because that's the room temperature, well 29 now, and it's the fans on circulation. If I press menu, I can select at the top by using the plus and minus the temperature of the vehicle. You've always got to make sure that that is above outside air temperature, because if it's not, the heating physically won't work. So that's at 30. Should you want the hot water on, Make sure that you've got water on board and there's water in the boiler. So if you've drained it down, don't try and put the hot water on because you're going to burn the element out in the Aldi boiler. But you just need to press it once and it'll go to half a bar. That'll run the heating and hot water together, joint. If I was to press it again and goes to a full black bar, that will prioritise the water and turn the heating off. But I want my van to warm up and the heating and hot water to run together, so I'll just have it on that. Down here you've got which energy source. So you've got electric, it's off at the minute, so if you weren't on electric you'd be on gas on its own, which is this one here, and it's as simple as pressing it to green, which is on, blue is off. If you're on a site you'd use electric, so you've got 1 kilowatt, 750 watts, 2 kilowatts, 1500 watts and 3 kilowatts. So it all depends on the amperage the site provides, whether you use 1, 2 or 3, but mostly you would use 2 kilowatts. On some super sites you can use 3. Should you get a warning triangle or a gas failure or anything fault, you can go into settings and you can scroll all the way down till it says reset, and you can reset the system. But that's only if you can't clear a fault code. Turn it back on, you can now reset the system and choose the room temperature, if you want the water on, and what source you're running the Aldi Hiss system on. So to operate your digital Truma CP control panel, to turn the system on and off, you'd press and hold to turn it off, press it once to turn it on and it'll come on, and then to get into the menu you just press it once. You'll notice you've got a thermometer in a van flashing at the top corner. If you press enter, this is how hot you want your vehicle. So you've got all the way off in the summer when you don't want the heating, or you've got all the way to 30 degrees in the winter when it's very cold. So once you're happy, so if we say 27 degrees there, that's how hot I want the inside of the motorhome to be, I'd press enter and that'll save that at 27 degrees. Now you've got a thermometer in some water, this is how hot you want your water. So if you don't have any water on board, you'd have it on off. 40 degrees for showering, 60 degrees for doing your dishes, but it's entirely up to yourself how hot you want your water. Or you've got boost, which will turn off your heating and prioritize your water first. But for this we'll just say 60 degrees because we want the heating to run along with the water. Next you've got what source you're heating the water and the vehicle off. So you've got gas, so make sure your gas bottle's on and it's turned on. You've got mix 1, which is 750 watts of electric and gas. You've got mix 2, which is 1850 watts of electric plus gas. So you'd use mix 2 in the winter. If you're away and it was really cold, use a mix 2, will boost the vehicle up to temperature because you're using both sources together. Then you can turn it over to electric. So you've got electric 750 watts EL1 and you've got EL2, which is 1850 watts of electric. Don't waste your gas if you're on a site unless you're away and it's really cold and you're using mix 2 for the first 10-15 minutes. Then allow electric to continue to heat the motorhome and maintain the temperature. Because if you're on a site, you've paid your site fees after all, you'll not want to waste your gas. Then you've got your fan in the top right hand corner, so eco or high or boost. This is just a 12 volt assisted fan. So eco will use less 12 volt. High obviously uses more fan speed, so it's going to use a little bit more 12 volt. And boost uses full power on the fan, which is going to use the most out of the 12 volt battery. Sleep with it on eco because it's a lot quieter than sleeping with it on anything else. If you're going to sleep with the heating on in the winter, you've got a timer so you can time the heating to come on and off, just the once though. Clock in the middle and then spanner. You can go all the way down to reset, and to reset the control panel, if you ever get a warning triangle in the middle, reset, preset, click again and it will restart your control panel. and then to turn off, press and hold, and it'll say off, and it'll completely turn itself off. To operate your fridge, which is a Thetford fridge, you turn on and off here with the square button. Once turned on, if you press this grey square button in the middle of the two arrows, this is where you can change the source. So press and hold and move it along to the energy source that you want. So you've got mains hook up, your temperature. So the plug which is mains hook up, which you'd use if you were pre-chilling it at home or if you were on a site and you've paid for your electricity, because you wouldn't want to waste your gas when you've paid to use someone's electric on site. When you travel and you've had it on and you've got your shopping in and it's all chilled, you can have it on the battery setting, which is a feed off the engine battery when the engine's running. That's why it's flashing at the moment, because it's indicating a fault, because the engine isn't on. It's got a no 12 volt power feed coming to the fridge. It's just going to act like a giant cool box, so it's got to be pre-chilled beforehand. So what I like to do is hook my van up a couple of days beforehand, allows the leisure battery to charge, put the fridge on, and the day before put the shopping in and allow that to chill overnight. And then when you're ready to drive, put on the battery until you get your site and either turn back to electric, or if you're going wild camping, go to gas. So to go to gas, press and hold again, bring to gas, select your temperature, and that is gas, which you'd use if you're wild camping. When you're not using the fridge, you need to turn it off by just pressing and holding here. Leave your door open because it's got a rubber seal on, and the rubber seal attaches to the frame and it will trap the air in and start to smell. So if you just flick this blue clip in the middle and slowly rest the door upon, it means that the air can circulate in and out without smells and bacteria and mold forming in the fridge. So in the kitchen, you've got a 800 watt mains microwave, so this has to be hooked up for this microwave to work. It's not off 12 volt, it's off solely mains power. Underneath you've got a handy storage compartment for your sink cover, so when you travel you can just pop that in there, and then when you arrive you can pop that on the sink and either cover the sink or use it as a bit of a draining board. Then you do have on your hob 3 gas, 1 electric. The 1 electric is this side, and again you've got to be hooked up for that to work. So instead of wasting your gas, you may want to use electric if you've paid for your site and you've paid for electric. If not, you do have gas. So there is 3 lit gas rings. Once you've turned these off, the same with the electric, allow it to go cool enough to lay your hand upon before you put the glass lid down. Otherwise you can shatter the glass. Underneath, you've got your grill, and under your grill you do have your oven. Push in the middle and you do have some storage underneath the oven. You've got your plug, which is your fused spur for your electric hot plate. So if you ever need to just unplug that, you can, and then you'll not be able to turn your electric hot plate on. And down here you've got gas isolation valves. So you've got 4 valves there. So you'll have one for the barbecue, one for the fridge, one for the boiler, and one for the oven. Any problems with gas, turn the bottle off to be safe, but what you can do is you can isolate an individual appliance should you wish, but this is mainly for when the vehicle is serviced, and all you need to do is turn them the other way. So the pointing up, turn it on its side and it will shut off the gas supply to that gas line that powers the appliance. Storage in here with the cutlery tray. 2 230 volt sockets on the worktop there, and your kitchen lights. And then in here you do have your cup, plate, bowl rack, Drainer for your sink, and your plug can be found in here to isolate the supply of mains power to your microwave.
So in the washroom, to this side you've got the toilet, and you can either use the toilet door as the toilet door or the bedroom door, depending on if you've got guests at the front or not. As long as the pump's on, you can press and hold the button. You'll get this fan first. To stop the fan, you need to press the button. So it's flashing, it's on. Press it until it goes to a solid light, which it has there, and you can press the blue button and it'll feed fresh water into the toilet. Once you've got the fresh water into the toilet, to help lubricate the blade, you'd open the blade up, just push it to the right. Use the toilet, flush it after use by again pressing the blue button, and then close the blade back to the left. If you've got any blue or green chemical goes in the toilet. Pink, if you put blue and pink together, pink goes in a separate holding tank, which is called the header tank, which some caravans, well most caravans have, and some motorhomes do. This motorhome doesn't, it's fed off its freshwater tank, so what you can do is get a spray bottle, put about that much pink into the rest water, spray the bowl and flush, and it'll do the same job. It's just not fed into your water system. When the cassette indicates it's full, you'll get 3 green lights underneath the diagram of the cassette here. Making sure that the blade's closed, if you do it in that routine, will mean that when the cassette is full, you'll be able to pull it straight out the side of the van and empty it. If the cassette doesn't come out, it's because the blade's open. Toiletry cabinet, lights for the washroom and the shower are both here. More toiletry space. Skylight does have a fly screen and a blackout blind on, and you just push the button in here to open. But make sure all skylights and all windows are closed before travel, just to make sure it's nice and safe and secure, so the wind doesn't cause any damage. Your shower cubicle. So magnetic doors, just pull them apart. Hanging rail, great if you've been caught in the rain, so you can put some hangers on there and hang your coats. Also good if you've had a shower and you can hang your towel in there and let it dry. But more for coats and things, if you've been caught walking the dog about in the rain, you can hang them in here, and your wet coats are going to dry and drip dry into the shower tray. When you're not using the shower and you're thinking about parking it up for the winter, it's very important that you unscrew the shower head off the hose. So just unscrew it like so, take this off and just leave that in there, and put that so it lies in the shower tray like so. Means any water that's in that pipe can potentially drain away with the mixer tap left open when winterizing, because it's very important that you eliminate all water in the motorhome over the winter when you're not using it, to avoid frost damage. This is all plastic lined, so it's very important that you don't use any harsh chemicals on any of the plastic, because you could damage it. So just washing up liquid, a microfiber cloth, some Dettol sprays, no bleach on those because you could damage the finish of the shower tray. So in the back of the vehicle, on the LB model, you do have your island bed. So this is in day position with the back of the bed up. If you grab the handle at the front and slide it down, you've got the bed flat for on an evening when you go to bed. And you can lift it up, and you've got some storage in here at the front. And you can get your arm over just to get into the back if there's anything that you want from the garage. Either side of the bed, you do have a wardrobe this side, storage up above, and a wardrobe that side. Got a TV point in the back of the bedroom as well, so you do have 12 volt input for the aerial and the 230 volt socket, along with a TV bracket if you want to put a telly in the back of the bedroom. And then when you're ready to put the bed away for the day so you can get round it, just lift this forward slightly, push it up and recline that back, and that'll just give you a little bit more space round the front foot of the bed. Just underneath the bench seat behind the driver's seat is a location of where your leisure batteries live. So your main leisure battery is underneath the black cover at the back, which is here, and it has a 20 amp main fuse. So if you ever wanted to remove the leisure battery, you would just lift up, take the terminals off like a normal car battery and lift it out. But this vehicle has had a second additional battery fitted. So you've got 2 leisure batteries on this vehicle, and the second one is in this yellow box. So this is known as a battery box. In there houses another leisure battery. So out of 1 fully charged leisure battery, if you use it correctly, you can get 2 to 3 days. So you've got 2 of those, so you can get up to 5 to 6 days off grid should you want to do that with a second leisure battery. You've got some storage underneath here. This side you haven't got much storage because it's boxed in at the back with the gas locker, but you've got a bit of storage at the front. Your boom arm table, what you need to do with the boom arm table when you are making the bed or travelling, you can leave it like this, or you can loosen this off here, turn it, and tighten like so you can put it out the way. Or if you loosen the nut off on the foot of it, you can lift the table out and pop it over the top here where your carpets are when you want rid of it, just to make the bed up. So to make the bed at the front, because this is a 4-berth, you need to lift, pull the leg out, down, lift, pull the leg out, slide it down. You can either backrest at the back or backrest in the middle, it doesn't really matter, but what I like, I'm going to show you how the bed makes up. But what I do is I always turn them upside down because you get the flatter surface to sleep on, but this is just for showing you where the cushions go. So there you do have a double bed. Sleeping heads that end, feet this end at the shorter end of the bed, with the width being narrower this end. But like I say, turn them upside down, you'll get a flatter surface to sleep on, you can put a sheet on, and it's a lot more comfortable.
So in this cupboard here, which is a cupboard straight behind the driver's seat, this is your EC700 supply unit. So if you trip the vehicle on mains or a 12-volt item isn't working, come here, try all your 12-volt fuses. They're listed here what they do, so do carry some spares with you. And it is the case of just pulling a fuse out. So if I pull this 10 amp fuse out, in the middle is intact. If it wasn't, that would be blown. Plus, you get a warning light on when the fuse is removed. So if the fuse was blown, you'd get a warning light on the bottom anyway. This side, you've got your trips on mains electric. If you weren't receiving power, the best thing to do is trip the motorhome. If the motorhome trips, you've got power. If it doesn't, it's either your hookup lead or where you're getting the power from. Heating and hot water, fuse spurs, so always make sure they're pushed in. Charger obviously charges the leisure battery. Heating and hot water supplies the 240 volt side to the boiler. What I would do is just leave them as they are. When you hook up, they'll just illuminate. But if you've got any problems, just check here, because that would be the first point of call I would make, just to make sure that you haven't knocked them when you've been in this cabinet. System shutdown button as well. This will act as a battery isolation switch for your leisure battery. So if you're parking her up in the winter and you don't want a power drain, you can turn the button off. Every auto trail has a unique build number. This is your unique build number, and what that does is it will allow us to, or any other auto trail dealer, to choose the right parts for your vehicle should you need any parts, because we can pop it into their system. This motorhome has a MaxView satellite system on it, so it's part of a Media Plus pack. So what you need to do is when you arrive on your site is turn it on. So you'd turn that on. This is start flashing, and you need to press this button once. It'll all then start flashing until you get a solid light on 2 and a solid light here, which means that the dish is up and it's locked on to Astro 2. Should you need to change it if you go abroad, all you need to do is press SAT when you turn the box on, and it will then allow you to move it on. It will not allow you to move it on now because it's locked on to Astro 2, so just make sure when you turn the power on, you move it on. So Astro 2 is normally good for all of France, Spain, but when you start going down to the bottom of Spain, Portugal, you do have to turn it over, and I think it's Hotbird, but there's loads of information online which will tell you the best satellites to use when you leave Spain into Portugal. Once you've done that, you will then have to, if you're just on Astra 2, great, you can then turn the telly on, so drop the telly down, and what you want to do is, there is a switch which you need to turn on first, and it'll send power to the TV. Which is normally on the, there, so it's here, it's on the top corner. Used to be on the top, I've changed them to the corner. Red light will come on, which is standby. Point your remote to it, it'll go blue, which means the TV is on. You'll get the Avtex logo. And then you've got source, and you can see that is on satellite TV. So you can choose your channel. And you shouldn't really need to retune your TV on satellite, it should just automatically download the feed for the TV. If you've got to change the satellite, if you are going abroad, like I've just mentioned, what you'll need to do is you'll need to go to TV setup and go down to the picture of the satellite. And you can see there that the satellite there is Astra 2 28.2E. If you change the satellite, because this has got a built-in satellite receiver, so it doesn't matter what you've selected on the MaxView satellite box in the cupboard, you've got to then pair it with the telly, otherwise you'll not get any picture. So if you've got any problems with your satellite, always make sure that that's still reading Astra 2 28.2 in this country or abroad. You will need to swap it over. And that is your TV. And it just folds back and stores away when travelling.